Hello, all, and welcome to How to Build a Standout Instructional Design Portfolio with AI. I'm Steph Yessel, the founder of Elevated Careers, where I help educators land impactful corporate roles without any of the burnout or confusion that usually comes with that major career pivot. My friends, this webinar is a big one. This is one of the most requested topics I see, and it goes to show how many talented teachers are so ready to bring their skills into the world of instructional design, as well as those who are already in instructional design. They're ready to update their skills so that they can become the instructional designers of the future. And everybody wants to do it the right way without spinning those wheels. Those of you who know me and Elevated Careers, you know I don't do fluff. I do clarity, I do strategy, and I get really tactical about what you should do to be the next candidate that all hiring managers need to pay attention to. And tonight's session is a perfect example of that because we're not just talking about any portfolios. We are going to show you how to create one that actually stands out in a sea of sameness. So here's how this session will go. Before I bring out our brilliant guest, Tanya, I'm going to give you the quick rundown of the absolute basics of creating your ID portfolio using AI. And I'm talking the bare minimum, my friends. This is your point of entry. It is just enough to get you started and build that momentum fast. And then I'll hand it off to Tanya, who I will give the full introduction of why she's so brilliant in just a little while. She's then going to take over and show you how to take your portfolio to the next level. All right, here's the quick and dirty basics of the AI ID portfolio. Step one, pick a project idea. You can start with something that you already have, or just so you know, the topic doesn't necessarily need to be something real you've already done before. You want to use this particular prompt. Give me a project idea for an instructional design portfolio about. Insert something that you know a hiring manager or a company you would eventually like to work for probably trains people on. Some other examples include how to give feedback, onboarding new employees, time management for remote teams. Step two, once you have that topic, use ChatGPT or any other AI model, I'm just using this as an example, to help you figure out the learning goals, the lesson structure, and the quizzes or practice activities that you're going to have people do in this learning experience. Here's a prompt. Create a learning plan for a 3-module course on whatever your topic was. Next, you want to build the actual content faster using AI. Storyboard. You can use GPT to outline your lesson flow, the points of engagement, and the assessments. Here's a prompt. Create a storyboard outline for a micro-learning module on blank, whatever your topic was. This can be a micro-learning module in between the 3 modules, say, from this particular step. You can get deeper and deeper and use AI to speed up the process and make it look incredible. Like you've put so much work into it. After you've storyboarded, you're going to need to do some script writing while you're building your content. Ask AI to draft narration for any videos that you would like to make, interview style lessons, or training dialogue. I have never been in a learning and development environment that didn't have digital tools with interactive characters on the screen, okay? There's always going to be something to be said and some sort of dialogue. Here's a very simple prompt for you. Write a conversational script for a 2-minute explainer on topic, product, whatever your theme is. And last but not least, for step 3, do the actual e-learning content creation. There are so many AI tools out there that have all of these really distinct purposes that could be so good and specific if you really want to get into the weeds, the good weeds, instead of just using one AI. So for instance, we have Canva, which has a magic write feature. You can create incredible slides. Synthesia has AI generated videos. You can actually make a twin of yourself with your own voice. Fascinating stuff. Google Docs, ChatGPT, beautiful AI, so many. You just need to do a little bit of searching to see what products actually fit your purposes best. But if you just want to stick with ChatGPT in the beginning, that's totally fine too. Step 4, actually build something where you can showcase what you're working on, where you can actually make this portfolio findable. Okay. There are a few platforms here that I've noted. There's some paid versions, there's some freemium versions. Of course, do your research here, but Type Dream is great. Notion is pretty cool, brand new. And of course, the old standby Google Sites, it's free and it's fast. You just want to have somewhere clean and professional to host your portfolio so that you are findable. And here's the quick rundown, okay? Once you have all of these great resources all over the place, here's how you want to organize them so that you are a hiring manager's dream. On your homepage, you want to have a short biography of yourself and your instructional design philosophy, which is just a fancy way to say, why do you build the way that you do? Why do you make certain design choices or learning choices versus others? And that's going to make you unique because in the world of AI, you have to inject your personality. That's what's going to set you apart. You're also going to need to have 2 to 3 project pages, and all of those include the challenge, what you were solving, the solution, how you solved it, all of your samples, all the tools that you used, and what exactly you created. And in this case, it's going to be all of it. Bonus section, it's optional, not absolutely necessary, but this one's really cool as we see more and more job descriptions require some type of AI literacy. You want to make sure that you are writing how you used AI to design smarter. So the AI prompts that you use, the tools that you combine to come up with these incredible portfolios and materials, and what AI ultimately helped you build, big picture. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I am so proud to introduce you to my special guest. Tanya Andrasi Beniquez is here. She is a national award-winning e-learning designer, a creative visionary, and someone who's built immersive and AI-powered learning experiences for major brands. And I guarantee you're going to recognize these: Univision, Florida Atlantic University, the SWI Group. And here's why I'm extra excited to have her here with us. It's because she's been on the front lines of what's actually working in the instructional design world. And tonight she's pulling back that curtain. So if you're a teacher watching this, dreaming of becoming an instructional designer, or if you've already started applying and you feel stuck, or if you're already in instructional design and want to become, future proof, right? You're the person that everybody wants, layoff proof, whatever proof, you are the employable one. You know what is the next best practice. This session is going to give you the edge. We're talking practical steps, immersive technology, and truly how to build it today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Tanya, over to you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that wonderful introduction and for being such a gracious host. We're going to dive into the workshop portion of this where we do start creating your first immersive standout portfolio piece after we get through about 10 to 15 minutes just talking about the trends in what instructional design hiring managers are looking for in 2025 and the specific things that you can do to make your portfolio stand out to them. And then after that, we'll move into the workshop portion where everyone's going to get hands-on experience using 2 AI tools. So to start off, I did want us to answer this question that the workshop title proposes, which is how do you make a standout portfolio? And there's 2 answers that we're proposing in this workshop. One is use AI, and 2 is to showcase impact. So we're going to be using the 2 AI tools, Skybox AI and a little tool that you might have heard of before called ChatGPT. And we're going to cover how to showcase impact by using ChatGPT to help us come up with ideas of how to create a learning environment that actually aligns with an organization's specific goals. And we'll get more into that in just a second. But first, I wanted to show you the URL for Skybox. It's skybox.blockadelabs.com. So if you want to take a moment to open up this website, you can do so now, and it'll be ready when we're in the workshop portion for us to dive on in and start using the tool. But if you don't open it up right now, that's okay, because I'm going to mention it again when we get there. That's the name of the tool, Skybox AI, and the URL is skybox.blockadelabs.com. All right, and then again, another tool that you might have heard of before called ChatGPT, chatgpt.com. You can go ahead and open that up now as well. Okay, so to start it all off, I wanted to bring up this question. How does this learning experience stand out from other e-learning samples that you might have seen in instructional design portfolios before?
I can tell
Yes.
you.
Yes, definitely.
I am so accustomed to when I was in corporate being on the receiving end of learning modules. It was
Mhm.
typically like this flat, two-dimensional cartoon character who would tell you something. And then
Yeah.
there, like, you would have these kind of interactive things that weren't really fun. It was just flip this card to learn this definition. Okay, got it.
Yes.
This, on the other hand, I want to look around. It feels like a game. I
I
want to
love
express.
that. The first obvious thing that stands out about this is that it's a 360-degree environment, using a 360-degree image specifically, which is not commonly seen in instructional design portfolios, even though the most in-demand tool for instructional designers is Storyline 360. And Storyline posts 360-degree images. It has the capability of doing so. We still don't see that feature being used often because many IDs have a hard time finding good stock 360-degree images, and most IDs don't even know that Skybox exists. Another thing that really stands out about this is that we're seeing a real world consequence play out safely, where the wrong answer results in a consequence. For example, if they make the wrong choices throughout the scenario, they can end up with a burnt cake or an undermixed cake. And that stands out because it showcases real world decision making and consequences, but in a safe environment, which is really beneficial for saving time and money in an organization. And lastly, but more importantly for today, what makes it stand out is that the visuals are completely 100% AI generated, and creating that 360 image of the kitchen scene, for example, only took a couple of minutes to generate. So that saves, again, both the instructional designer and the organization time and money. So before we dive into making our own 360 environment, just like the one that we saw in that sample, I do want to acknowledge something that I've learned working with transitioning teachers in the past, which is that many don't have a whole lot of experience using AI tools, not even ChatGPT, and they might even have a bad opinion of AI based on students using it for plagiarism and things like that. So I'm thinking that there might be some of you who relate to that. So I just wanted to kind of level the playing field and talk about what an AI large language model is, what it does, and how it can be used. So basically, a large language model is a computer program that's been trained on a huge amount of textbooks, websites, and articles. So when you ask it to do something, the LLM will predict the best way to answer you based on patterns that it recognizes. So for example, if you're asking for it to generate an image for you, it's going to reference all the images in its database that match those keywords that you use in your prompt, and it's going to produce an amalgamation of that data for to create a unique image for you. So you can see on the left here, I even used ChatGPT to help me answer this question simply. I asked, can you explain how LLMs work in a sixth grade reading level? And I like for it to speak to me like I'm in the sixth grade or in the eighth grade because it keeps the answer short, easy to digest. And that's why I like to include that note in my prompt. You can also see on the right-hand side here that I used it to make a storyboard document for me using a table format. And it was able to produce this e-learning storyboard for me in the matter of seconds. This is a really important ID design document that most employers will actually love to see a sample of in your instructional design portfolios. So when you do come up with an idea, you can use an AI tool like Clue Labs or ChatGPT to help produce a storyboard for you. And you can add that to your portfolio next to your learning experience. That way you have the supporting documentation and you're showcasing the thought process behind how you design.
I have a quick question for you before you move on to the next slide. Is now a good time?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Okay. So one of the main questions that I see in comments, one of the questions that we received the last time we hosted this particular session was, we're seeing this almost overuse of GPT or AI when
Mhm.
creating resumes and cover letters and LinkedIn profiles. And is there, as someone who is, I mean, elbows deep in the ID world. You are living in it. You are breathing ID. You have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. Are you hearing that hiring managers are discouraging ID folks from using AI?
That's such a good question. So I would say no. The trend that I'm seeing is that hiring managers are looking for people who know how to use and leverage AI. So I ran like a really quick uh, analysis of 15 top instructional design job postings that were over 100K per year. And 40% were asking for skills in AI, which means that it's a growing demand. It's still something that can be used and you would be at the cutting edge still because 100% of those roles ask for multimedia experience. So that's just if you know how to create multimedia and visuals, then you're just meeting the standard, right? But if you're,
Got it.
producing AI, you're standing out. But when it comes to using the first iteration of what you get out of a prompt, that's really frowned upon. People are getting more AI literate and they can tell when there's no like human thought process that went behind
Yeah.
this product, right? So that's true for cover letters, resumes, or creating a storyboard. For example, the storyboard that you see here is not at all the final storyboard that I used for the scenario. It just helped me come up with some ideas. Sometimes the mistakes that AI makes actually sparks ideas. So you're like, oh, I'm glad it mentioned that
Mm,
because that's absolutely not what I want to do because of XYZ reason. Or it could spark an idea of like, I didn't even think to do that and I'd love to do it.
yeah.
But it definitely requires the human touch. And
Mhm.
if you can showcase how it is that you think about prompting or your process for using AI as a tool, not as a replacement for the work, because it
Right.
absolutely can't replace creative work like this. So I think
That's
that was a
right.
really great question.
So it's a co-pilot. Like it's not meant to replace people, which is another really valid point that I love to talk about. AI is not here to replace people. People who know how to use it effectively will replace those who don't know how to use it effectively. And AI
Yeah.
should always just be treated as your draft partner, your thought partner, your sounding board, right? Your refiner, but not
Yes.
the creator. You, the human, are the creator. And you have to decide and determine based on the output, will what this output is saying, based on all of this data that's collecting, like, is this actually going to work for what I need it to
100%.
do and what my audience needs to see?
A
You
hundred
you as the
percent.
individual have the first right of refusal on literally anything that your resumes, documents, book reports, whatever. Awesome.
Mhm.
Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that wisdom with us.
Yes, thank you. That was an excellent question to bring up. Um, Yes, you can see the possibilities here. You can use it for brainstorming, storyboarding, image generation, video generation, voiceover generation. You can even clone your own voice. So that way, if you were creating course content with your own voice, you don't have the time to record all of those voiceovers. You can actually clone your voice using a tool like 11 Labs and have it use your voice to record more voiceovers. So the possibilities, again, they're endless. Okay, so now I want to talk about what the typical ID portfolio looks like. Usually they have samples that look something like this, and Stephanie actually brought this up, and I'm grateful that you did, because many of the trainings that we're seeing nowadays, they can be stiff in their interactivity. There are some bad habits in the industry of adding many interactive elements, even if they're meaningless to the learning itself. Like the example that Stephanie brought up earlier, flipping a card over to reveal definition, that's not really a great use of the interactive experience. L&D is changing due in large part to AI. Current working IDs are even worried about these changes. And the problem is that L&D leaders are fatigued at this type of learning. The common trainings made are usually not helping organizations actually grow or meet their revenue goals well enough. The real reason that they even hired IDs in the first place is to help them grow and improve employee performance and thereby increasing company revenue. That's the bottom line. So focusing on creating this type of training just because it's what everyone else has been doing traditionally is not going to help you truly stand out for ID roles today, especially when there is this fatigue towards what's already being created for the past 5, 10 years. So instead, you want to show that you bring something different and more effective to the table. But by the way, I did want to mention that this image that you see here, including the text inside, all of it was created with ChatGPT, just using a single prompt, and it created this image in a couple of minutes. So I just wanted to mention that's really cool. So we mentioned the two ways that we're going to create a standout portfolio are showcasing real impact. And we're going to use ChatGPT to help us do that in just a moment when we start the workshop in the next slide. And then two is using AI, which is disrupting the market. Because AI is a time saver, and that's good news for both the employer and yourself as an instructional designer, who oftentimes instructional designers do work solo. So any way that they can save time, and they wear many, many hats on the job, it's good news for you. And then I just wanted to show this poll really quickly. I did poll the instructional design leaders in my community about their number one piece of advice for landing a role as an ID, and they did say crafting a standout portfolio was their number one piece of advice. And the conversation in the comments was really about showcasing that yourself as a problem solver using your portfolio. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Love that.
Yes. Okay, so entering now the workshop portion of this presentation. Now's the time to open up chatgpt.com, and we're going to talk about the prompt that we're going to plug in there. So if we can't work with a real company, if we're a freelancer or a contractor, we might be able to access a real company to create an impactful learning experience for. But if not, then we can just research real companies and industries and ask ChatGPT, what L&D problems do they have? And this is how we're going to showcase impact, by using their real world problem as the inspiration for your portfolio sample. What I want you guys to do is to think of a specific field. Maybe it's your ideal dream company. Maybe you have a company that you've always aspired to work for. So you can pick that company, or you can pick a common ed tech company like Pearson or HMH. Think about the type of roles that you want to attract with your portfolio. And in my example, I'm going to choose Amazon. Let's say that my dream company would be to work for Amazon. Oh, what kind of training might they need to create? Training a warehouse supervisor is a type of training that they might have to create, right? So here's a couple of examples that you can screenshot. So you can pause this workshop here, write down the prompt that you're going to use. What you're going to do is replace the text within the brackets. So the first bracket, you're going to add the dream company name, for instance, and the second bracket is the specific role that we're training for. So you can pause here and then come back in when you're ready to proceed. Here you can see a video of me opening up the free ChatGPT with no login, although I do have a pro account, so I can do a little bit more. I wanted to show you what it looks like when you're using the free version. And I pasted in the prompt of for the Amazon warehouse supervisor. And you can see here all of the wonderful ideas that it gave me for different problems that might be faced in learning and development. So I decided to choose data-driven decision making. So Amazon warehouses rely heavily on data to track performance, inventory, and schedules. I thought this was interesting because the trainee would have to use key performance indicators, KPIs, in order to make decisions in that warehouse environment. So it creates a dynamic learning experience. So I'm going to give you guys a moment to try this. And after you get the list of problems, I suggest that you just choose one problem, making this a really impressive micro learning example. And this problem that we choose is going to inform how we're going to generate our 360-degree image. So for example, for my example, if the warehouse supervisor needs to track key performance indicators, that means that they're looking at a computer dashboard. So my warehouse would have to include a desk with a computer on it in order for it to be a realistic training experience. So we'll get into that in just a bit, but I'm going to give you guys the minute to just pause here and choose a problem that you want to focus on for your scenario. Okay, so now we're ready to have ChatGPT help us describe what this environment will look like. So earlier, I actually asked ChatGPT what the environment would look like for a a supervisor that works in Amazon warehouse, and the answer that I got was a fulfillment center. So I know that I can use that keyword fulfillment center in my prompt. Something to note is that as an ID, you're not usually the subject matter expert, and you generally work with somebody who is a subject matter expert. We call them SMEs. But for those of you who are creating this portfolio and don't have access to a subject matter expert, you can use ChatGPT as your subject matter expert and ask them questions such as, what does the environment look like where the worker performs this task? So um, this is what the prompt is going to look like. Provide a description of what the environment will physically look like for a learning scenario that solves a specific problem. And in that bracket, you're going to add your problem. For instance, I wrote data-driven decision making using keywords separated by commas in under 600 characters. So the reason that we have that end part of the prompt using keywords separated by commas is that that's how the next tool that we're going to use, Skybox AI, likes to read a prompt. So keywords separated by commas, and they have a 600 character limit for their prompting. So because we have that insider information, we can kind of cut corners there and not make the mistake of adding too many characters or not prompting it effectively. So this is the prompt that you're going to plug into ChatGPT. You can pause here and write that down, get it into ChatGPT, and come back when you're ready to move on. Okay, so this is what the prompt turned out to look like for me. And I do want to say that this is a really good time to exercise the human element and adding the human touch to your AI prompting. So read through your prompt to make sure that there's nothing that needs to be changed or just stylistically that you'd want to change. For instance, maybe you want to change a color, or maybe you don't want the employees to be visible in this scenario. So you could delete or change some words before we plug this into Skybox in the next slide. Okay, so now it's time to open up skybox.blockadelabs.com. All right, so this is what it's going to look like when you open up Skybox. You're going to see a menu of a lot of different examples. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on this top right icon here. This is your profile icon, and you're going to click where it says Skybox AI. And when you open up here, it's going to give you a sample image. So I want you to just click and drag on the screen so you can explore and get an idea of how to navigate a 360 image. This is a really artistic and unrealistic but beautiful example of what can be created with Skybox. So what I want us to do though is to create a scenario that would be realistic. Again, we're showcasing impact and real world problem solving. So we're going to change the style down here next to the generate button. There's a drop down menu, and we're going to find Model 3 realistic. And under Model 3 realistic, you can find different styles like photoreal, cinematic realism, detailed render. I usually choose photoreal or cinematic realism. So I'm going to choose photoreal for this one. And I'm going to highlight this text and paste in my prompt. And I'm going to leave all the default settings that I have right now up, and then we'll talk about how you can tweak these different settings and use them for your prompting after we give this first one a shot. So I'm going to go ahead and generate my image. And I just want to note that I do have a lot of credits available because I've paid the $24 fee, the monthly subscription fee, to have 100 generations a month. But when you're using the free account, I believe you just get one free generation. But then if you want to make up to 5 generations, then you can create a login, a free login, so that you can explore and create 5 generations. But I do want to note that you will not be able to download the image generations unless you have a paid account. Okay, so this is what the warehouse image turned out to look like. It looks great, really realistic. The only issue is that we don't have the computer visible on a desk. So that would be a time where you would want to keep iterating and chipping away at what your AI model is producing. Another time that I tried this, I got the perfect image with the desktop on a computer at the perfect location of the warehouse on the first go. So it's kind of like hit and miss. It can happen the first time or not. So I'm going to show you actually a result that I got when I tried this the other day. where I actually have the three computer monitors up here, super close, but not too close to the 360-degree image. And I really, really loved the way that this one came out. So you can see the difference between the prompt that didn't work as well and the one that did. So the one that worked very well, instead of mentioning the computer at the beginning of the prompt, I added a whole line that explained in the far corner in a simple computer desk with a monitor tucked away. So there is more detail focusing on this computer monitor as a focal point. So this is the best one that I got. And one of the tools that I used that helped me reach this outcome was that I did use the enhanced prompt tool. So when you use this, Skybox will start to use more of the language that it understands best to help you create your prompt. And another cool feature that we have here is remix. So if you like the overall structure of the scene, but you just want to change, like maybe instead of the yellow cabinets, you want to have blue instead. You can go to Remix and you can change some keywords and it'll produce an image with the same, again, overall structure, but with minor changes. The other great tool is negative prompt or the negative text. So you can describe what you want to avoid. For instance, if people were showing up, then you can write people here, human, man, things like that. Something that often happens with Skybox is if you don't get those small details that you really want, like if the computer never shows up after you've tried for 10 minutes to create the right prompt and have the computer monitor show up the way that you like them to, this happens to me often, and I just jump into Canva and I start editing. So I have more resources on how you can use Canva to edit your 360-degree images and add any of those small details that you need. That's part of the freebie course that you're going to get at the end of this workshop. And the last thing that I want to mention is when you do click download on Skybox and you download your PNG image from there, you're going to get a rectangular image like this on your computer. This is called an equirectangular image. And I just want you to know that it's not broken. This is exactly what you want it to look like when you upload this type of image to a compatible host, like Storyline 360, for example. It's going to wrap the image around in a circle as if you were in the center of it, and it's going to appear in 360 degrees. So again, I do have that freebie resource where I show you how you can upload a 360 image like this to Storyline 360.
Before you move on, can you tell us a little bit about the process of adding the hotspots or like the interactivity? Can you do that in Skybox or do you have to put that somewhere else?
Yes, definitely, definitely. So you can't do that in Skybox. One of the tools that you could use is Storyline 360, the Articulate Storyline 360, which is again that very common, highly in-demand authoring tool that most instructional design hiring managers are looking for you to have experience with. So luckily, you can host a 360 image there, and that's where you can add hotspots, triggers, markers, and
Okay.
all of the fun interactivity.
Very good information. Cool. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And another really fun note is that Storyline is looking into adding the capability to host 360-degree videos, which is really fun.
Oh.
And yes, so that would be another great thing to explore in the future.
Well, I'm sure another opportunity for us to collaborate when that's the new cutting edge piece.
Definitely, I'd love to. So again, we are running out of time. So in order for you guys to learn more about adding interactivity, using Storyline 360, editing the 360 images using Canva's AI tools, you can grab my freebie and you'll get immediate access to a library of 360-degree images, 48 360-degree images that you can use to play around with and explore. If you don't have your Skybox Pro account, you can use this library instead. And then in your email, you'll be able to jump into the mini course that covers all of those topics that we talked about today. So you can get started on creating a truly standout instructional design portfolio piece. So you can go ahead and scan this QR code. We'll also have this link somewhere so you can find it. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Stephanie. And again, thank you so much.
Tanya, what an incredible feature to add to modern instructional design practices. I know I speak for myself, anybody who's watching this right now, when I say that this is such a real way to add value to the future of instructional design. And this is an incredible way for people who don't want to just upskill to catch up to where instructional
Mhm.
design has been. You want to accelerate past what has been and get straight to, I want to be on the cutting edge of what is and what's coming up.
Mhm.
And this is really going to give people the edge. So thank you so, so much for that. And
Thank
I would
you.
also like to reiterate that we are going to make sure that that guide you saw at the very beginning, the quick and dirty guide, the entry point of an ID portfolio with AI, the one that I shared with you, I'm going to make sure that's available as part of the learning bundle that's going to come with this video. We'll make sure, of course, you have access to this video whenever you want it because you're watching it right now. Obviously, you have access to it. And we're going to make sure that you have full access to that freebie video, the next steps, okay, so I have this information. I know how to create this starter portfolio, and then I know how to create this image. So now what's next?
Mhm.
And how do I add those hotspots? Just how do I continue to keep this self-learning journey going? And I know everybody is excited about that. And I personally am grateful that you were able to share your hard-earned wisdom with all of us. And I cannot wait for the next time we get to collaborate. So Tanya,
So
thank you.
excited. Thank you
We
so
are
much,
all
Stephanie.
going to go forth and prosper with this information, and the world of instructional design is going to be better for it.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Stephanie. This has been so much fun. You know, last time that we did this, we saw the amazing generations that all of the audience created. It was so fun to see how inspired that they got, and I can't wait to see what everybody else creates using Skybox and a lot of different AI tools.
This is just the beginning. All right, everybody, get to it.